If you enjoy watching eggs slide around in carbon steel skillets, this is a great video for you. Today we are going to review this guy. This is a Debouillet Mineral B Pro carbon steel omelet pan. We are going to cook some fried eggs, some Western omelets, and some French omelets. French omelets in carbon steel. If we run into any trouble, I got the old hammer and chisel ready to go. Always keep a hammer and chisel in the kitchen. Occasionally, I have to clean up one of my wife's pan sauces. Okay, we're going to check this pan on my beloved Ilve fancy gas cooktop, an electric flat top, and also the disgusting and despised induction burner. See how this pan performs on a variety of cooktops. Give out some French omelet tips. Get this guy seasoned, show you how to season a carbon steel skillet and more. Let's jump in and get started. Okay, I'm going to start out with a few high-level bullet points. This is the Debouillet Mineral B Professional Model Omelette Pan. Omelette pans have a little bit of a curve to their sides rather than an angle. And what makes this a professional model is this cast stainless steel handle. The regular series model has a coated strip steel handle with a little plasticky medallion. Why are the handles important? If you have a gas cooktop, you can choose any pan in the world. If you have an electric or an induction stove, you might want to season your carbon steel skillet. All carbon steel skillets need to be seasoned. You might want to do that in your oven. The regular series with that coated handle can't be used in the oven. The professional model can. Now, Debouillet has made the regular series pans for a while now. These professional models in the omelet pans are new. They're making the new ones in the 9.5-inch size and the 11-inch size. Because I already had a 9.5-inch size in the regular series, I went with the 11 here. Now, this thing is thick and heavy. 3 millimeters thick, very thick carbon steel. Got a slight upward bow in the bottom of the pan. That's going to help mitigate any potential warping issues you might get on the flat top stoves. Weighs in at over 5 pounds. Especially for an 11-inch pan that is significantly heavier than most other pans. I am massive and powerful and I can move it around and flip an egg, but some people might have trouble with heavier skillets. If you don't like heavy cast iron, if you have any trouble with that, you might have trouble moving a heavier pan here. As with all products I review, I paid for this with my own money. I paid $120 for this pan for the 11-inch. I believe the 9.5-inch Pro model is around $100. Now, it's carbon steel, it's got to be seasoned. I do want to point out here that the card, the instruction card that comes with the pan, for some reason does not mention anything about seasoning this pan. I double checked with Debouillet just to make sure, but as we all know with carbon steel, it has to be seasoned when it's new, and this pan is no exception. So even though the card doesn't say it, you do have to season this pan. Now, I've shown in many other videos how to season a carbon steel skillet. I'm going to quickly run through seasoning this one. As always, I'm going to say we're going to season it one time correctly, and then we're just going to start cooking. The pan comes with a coating of beeswax. I am going to run some hot water on this and wash it with some dish soap and a sponge, dry it really well. Putting it on my stove top, I've got 1 millimeter or so of peanut oil in the pan. I'm going to bring that oil up to its smoking point. Usually takes 3 or 4 minutes or so to start smoking. And you can also use canola, you can use veggie, you can use sunflower, you can use grapeseed. You want to pick an oil that has a high smoke point for your initial seasoning. Now, once that oil starts smoking, I'm going to carefully pour that into an empty tin can that has some paper towels in it. Then I'm going to grab a huge wad of paper towels here, clean paper towels. How many paper towels? Enough to give Weyerhaeuser a bump in their stock price. And I am going to wipe that pan out very carefully. You got to make sure there are plenty of paper towels between your fingertips and that searing hot pan. If you hear a sizzling sound and get shooting pain in your fingertips, you didn't use enough paper towels. I'm also going to put this pan back on the burner and let that oil smoke a little bit more, 30 seconds or so here. And what that's going to do is add some initial color to this pan. Sometimes when you season carbon steel, it can be shiny and silvery even after you season it. If you let that oil smoke a little bit more, you can add a little bit of color to your pan. And that is it for the seasoning. If wiping that oil out or pouring out smoking oil, or if you don't have good ventilation, I've got good ventilation here, and that oil smoke is going to bother you, then just use the oven method, which is easy and I've shown in depth in other videos. All we're going to do now is let that pan cool down, and that is it for seasoning. And I want you to know, with all the cooking you're going to see coming up in the video, this is the only seasoning I have done with the pan. I have seasoned it once, taking my own advice, and then just started cooking. I have not used soap on the pan at all, other than that initial clean right out of the package. But after seasoning, I have not let soap touch the pan. And as a matter of fact, I've only used water to clean the pan one time when I got a little sticking using this dreaded induction burner. We'll go through that here in a few minutes. Every time we have a new carbon steel skillet, I think it's required for anybody that talks about a carbon steel skillet online, you have to slide an egg. So let's go through the fried egg test first here on the gas stove. Got my pan heating up, in goes some butter, in goes an egg, and nailed the fried egg test very first time. So the egg is sliding it around like a hockey puck. And just to reiterate for the umpteenth time, we seasoned this pan one time. It took about 10 minutes. We let the pan cool down. And in less than an hour, I have a non-stick sliding egg and some color on the pan. I think doing things this way, where you just season once and start cooking, is a much better use of your time than these methods you see on the internet where people season these things over and over and over, hours and days, in anticipation of cooking something. Just season once and start cooking. That was all Carbon Steel 101. Let's move up to Carbon Steel 102 and tackle some French omelets. Okay, we're going to try a French omelet on the old electric flat top here. I've got 4 eggs, room temperature, or pretty close to it anyway. I've got some chives, a little bit of oil, a little bit of clarified butter, some salt, some white pepper, and some toast. I went ahead and made my toast upstairs. I don't have a toaster down here in this basement kitchen. What is this, third world? Now, cooking a French omelet on an electric flat top, this is going to pose a few challenges that we didn't really run into with the gas stove. Namely, if you've ever seen the videos where the French chefs get the French omelet going, and towards the end they turn the pan up, and some of the looser, wetter part of the omelet slides over to this side of the pan, and then they roll the omelet up. When they do that, this part of the pan is still over the gas flame, so that's still cooking that part of the omelet. On this electric stove, because it's a flat top, if we turn this up, I am not sure that is going to work. So we may not be able to turn the pan up and roll it. And secondly, because these, both on the induction and on this electric, they tend to heat the pan more right where it touches the surface of the stove. And because of that, there won't be quite as much heat up the side of the pan. Now, normally that may not be a big deal because a lot of food never touches the sides of a pan when you cook. These French omelets, though, they could easily, especially when we're going to turn the omelet out, I don't want any egg to hit the cool part of the pan and stick. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, I do want to take a little bit of extra time here to preheat the pan properly. It's easier to preheat on a gas stove. I kind of want to go the extra mile here on the electric to make sure that the pan is heated as evenly and correctly as possible. Okay, let's go ahead and get our eggs ready. We've got 4 here. Add a little bit of salt, a little bit of white pepper, I'm going to add some chives, We'll save a few to add to the top of the omelet once it's done for a garnish. Okay, I'm going to call that ready. Water. Okay, let's call that good. Half a teaspoon of oil. Clarified butter. And here we go. Don't come over here now. And what we're going to do is turn the heat off now. Don't come in here now. I'm doing this right now. And what I notice here, entire omelet, loosen it just a little here. Oh dear. I think what I'm going to do is put the entire thing up on a plate, since I can't roll it up. Okay, so we got a non-stick French omelet. Now what I'm going to do is try and lightly roll this thing up on a plate. Is this cheating? I don't know. Take this side, come over. And what I'm going to do is double plate. So where's my other plate? Put this one on here. And confidently, let's see what we got here. Ah! And I got a little extra butter. Add for garnish a few of the extra chives. What do you think? Not half bad for a French omelet on an electric stovetop. There you go. All right, so the Debouillé did a great job, I think, at making a French omelet on an electric stovetop. We didn't turn the pan up and roll the omelet in the pan. I don't think that would work very well on the electric flat top. We just slid the entire thing out onto a plate and then rolled it up. Is that cheating? I don't know, but I think that's probably the best you can do on an electric flat top, and having a completely non-stick omelet that slides entirely out of the pan. Good problem to have anyway. Okay, so we're off and running here. Let's grind to a halt by jumping over to the induction stove. Now, as we've noted around here, induction stoves and carbon steel skillets often do not play well together, and it's not really the fault of one versus the other. Carbon steel does not transfer heat anywhere in the same ballpark as fast as copper or something like an aluminum core, stainless steel pan. You got to take a little bit more care heating it up. I've shown in previous videos this induction burner has turned pans into spinners, and the problem with this burner and lots of induction stoves is that the size of the burner coil underneath the magnets just not wide enough to get good heating coverage on a lot of pans. And this is not just a problem with a portable single induction burner like this, it's also a problem with that $1,500 Control Freak burner that America's Test Kitchen and a lot of other people like. It's a problem on induction ranges. I think once you get up into the super high-end induction fancy cooktops, then you can get some wider burners with better coverage and you might have better luck. Most of the other burners though have a smaller coil, and even though the graphics look big, they don't provide good coverage under skillets. And what you end up with is a hot spot in the middle and cooler temperatures out towards the edges of the pan, and it makes cooking things, especially things like eggs, it can be a bit of a nightmare. But regardless, let's check this guy on the induction. What I'm trying to do here is heat the pan slowly. I'm giving it a minute of heat, then turning the induction off, and then giving it a minute of heat and turning it off, and repeating that. Did that 3 or 4 times, and what I want to do is give a little bit of time for the heat that's in the pan to diffuse from the middle out towards the edges. But even after 3 or 4 rounds of this, the cook surface is hot, but out near the edges of the pan is still cool to the touch. That could be a problem. So let's do a fried egg test on the induction. I've got some butter in there, it's heating up. In goes my egg, and I actually got a sliding fried egg here on the induction, but what I want to point out is that in the middle where the pan is hotter, the egg is sliding really well. When I slide it over towards the edges of the pan, note how the white is not set up and it wants to stick out there. That is because the pan is much cooler out towards the edge. So the pan is not heating very evenly. And you can really see it here with this Western omelet in the induction. Same thing here. I've taken care to heat the pan slowly. And regardless of that, I've got butter in there, and in go the eggs. And you see that in the middle, the omelet is cooking. Out towards the edges, the eggs are still liquid and taking a long time to set up. So you're getting different heat zones, and you really don't want heat zones when you're cooking omelets. It produced an omelet. I ate it, but I think it was kind of a subpar omelet on this induction burner. On the upside, I didn't get any warping, and the pan didn't turn into a spinner. I did get a somewhat non-stick fried egg, but I think if you have an induction stove, you need to really try and match up the size pan you have with the size magnet coil burners, whatever they call them on inductions. Make sure they match up as well as possible. And it may just be that carbon steel and induction don't play perfectly together. Now I think this debouillé on the induction, it did about as good as carbon steel is going to do on induction. It's just whether you think that is good enough for you or not. Okay, so I have been cooking a ton of omelets in this guy. On the gas stovetop and on the electric, everything is going fantastically. If this is a problem, it's a good problem to have. Sometimes when I tip the pan up, the omelets will almost slide out of the pan all the way onto the burner. So I'm having to be really careful when I tip the pan up to roll up an omelet. Westerns are doing well. And the only sticking and problems I've had have been on that doggone induction. Now let's go back to the gas and kind of tie a lot of this stuff together and give a few more carbon steel French omelet tips here. When we cook fried eggs in carbon steel, it's important to heat the pan properly and evenly. For French omelets, it's double extra important to heat the pan evenly and properly. So what I'm doing here is I am going to go ahead and put this pan on a burner for 1 minute. I'm going to move the pan around just a little bit. And that is because, believe it or not, in the middle of a gas flame, there's a cooler spot in the middle and then a ring of fire out a few inches away from there, and you can actually get slightly uneven heating on a gas stove, believe it or not. No matter what we always say, you can get uneven heating on a gas stove. So I'm moving the pan around a little bit so that I make sure all areas of the pan get heated, and then I'm turning that off. I'm just setting it aside, and then I'm going to get all my ingredients ready. Now my eggs, I'm going with 4 eggs here, and these eggs I have had out of the refrigerator for a while. I've let these come up to darn near room temperature. Now my refrigerator is at 34 degrees. You definitely don't want to cook a 34-degree egg. That is almost frozen. You want to let your eggs warm up a bit. Room temperature is great. If you're in a hurry, you can run a bowl of hot or warm water, put your eggs in there, and they will warm up a lot more quickly. I got my oil, I got my clarified butter. I'm going to use a pinch of salt here. I'm going to use a shake of white pepper. And I'm going to beat these eggs 60 times. What kind of nut counts the number of times he beats his eggs? 60 times, and then I'm going to add some of the chives, and then another 10 strokes or so there. Now I'm going to start heating my pan. Now remember, I've already heated the pan for a minute. It's already pretty warm. It's been sitting for 2 minutes or so. It gives a little time for that heat to dissipate through the pan and kind of equalize a little bit. Now I'm going to go for another minute of heating on a large output burner, but a lower flame on a large output burner. And here I've dialed back on the amount of fat just a little bit. I'm going with 1 teaspoon of oil, spreading that around evenly. Now 1 teaspoon of clarified butter. So not even using a full tablespoon of fat here, and that is not a lot of fat for a French omelet if you see the amount of butter some other chefs use. Once that's all melted, in go my eggs. And again, just shaking and stirring with a fork. Shake, 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 shake here. And if you are not meek and you're not timid and you really shake that pan, you will notice that the omelet is already nonstick. The entire thing starts to move around. Once I see that happen, I turn the flame off. Now there's still a lot of heat in that pan, but the omelet is already nonstick. And because we're using clarified butter, and we've turned the flame off, we're not going to get any browning on the bottom of that omelet. You don't want any browning on a French omelet. And now you can just let the omelet cook until the wetness, the moisture level is the way you like it. So turning the pan up here, rolling up my omelet, and here we go. Pretty good looking French omelet. Add a little extra butter, add a few more chives for appearance and garnish. And we got nice color on here, a nice surface, no pleats, no tears, no browning, and a pretty doggone good looking French omelet, I have to say. Okay, so I think you can probably tell that I really do like this De Bouillé Mineral B carbon steel omelet pan. It gets a hearty thumbs up. Just in terms of cooking, I am really proud to be able to say that after a few years of really dedicating myself to learning how to doing some cooking, I'm kind of proud of myself being able to turn out a non-stick French omelet in a French carbon steel omelet pan. So I think that's a little bit of an accomplishment. If you recognize that cooking is not like watching a professional golf tournament or an NFL game and you see things and athletes do things you'll never be able to do. Cooking is one of the ultimate monkey see, monkey do activities. If you get good equipment and good ingredients and practice a little, you can make any dish just as good as a fancy restaurant chef. I believe that. Now, if you decide you want to get one of these for yourself and do some French omelet cooking, a nice thing to do is use the old affiliate shopping links below. I buy all this gear and equipment myself. If you buy through the affiliate links, it really does help out around here. Look somewhere on the screen for links to other videos you might enjoy. Post your questions, comments, and feedback below, and we'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Kitchen.